so you can draw it very fast. Okay, we come to the Sasanian daggers and swords. This is an early Sasanian double-edged sword. Basically, it looks the same as the Parthian swords. If you read Masiya, if you read any scholar who has written on Parthian and Sasanian swords, actually in my book, their dimensions are all there. In detail, they're compared to each other. Based on rock reliefs, they always write the Parthians had shorter, long swords, and the Sasanians' swords became slender and longer. This is not correct. They're more or less the same size, based on archaeological examples, scientific excavations. They're the same. This is an early Sasanian sword. This is scabbard slide system. This is early Sasanian swords were carried the same way as you see in the rock reliefs as the Parthian swords. You see in front of him, this is this scabbard. You see this? This is, we call it scabbard slide. This is like a device like that, and you pass a belt here. Just simple. Imagine you have a device like this, part of the scabbard, and you pass the belt here. So it's really, if I walk with my sword is dangling between my legs. You understand what I mean? This, okay, as long as you're a rider, that's a good idea. But what do you do if you're an infantry? I'm sure if you want to run like that, this is very comfortable. I can tell you that. We have made experiences with like that. Excuse me. This is not very comfortable, actually. So what you do, as infantry, they used always to push the scabbard like that, and to hold the scabbard, basically, and run. Each time they were told the commander to run, they did it. But what is your problem? You have one problem, one basic problem. You're pushing like that, okay, you can hold your shield as well here, but you're not flexible. This was the reason where P-shaped scabbard attachment were introduced. Unfortunately, this one is broken. In my book, you can find better examples of that. I can show it to you. You know that Sasanians always fought in the north against the enemies. These, the northern enemies, as we call them. It is assumed that this scabbard P-shaped, as it's called, this is in top of the scabbard. The scabbard is unfortunately broken like this, you see? And you have one of them which is broken up there. Here. Okay. Now you have here two loops. If I have a belt, then the scabbard is like this. Horizontally, not vertically anymore. It is assumed that they learned it from in the military confrontations against the enemies in the north. The interesting part is, I don't know if the publishing house did that. Unfortunately not. Okay, no problem. Do I have it here? No. This is the cover of the scabbard and also the handle. This is divided between different fields. And in each one of them, there is a feather, like from a bird. Do you know this? This is the symbol of the Zoroastrian or Zarathushtri god of victory, Veretranga. They believed that this Veretranga, this deity, helps them in the fight, and they get like invincible. This is amazing, you see. This symbol of feather, you find it everywhere on these Sasanian swords, late Sasanian swords. This is, by the way, covered with silver, and the wooden part normally is missing here. Is rotten away, and it's covered with silver. There are some examples which are of gold, covered with gold sheets. You can find one when I was in Washington, D.C., one is there. In which museum is it?
There is one in British Museum.
Yes, in British Museum in London there is one. One is in Washington. Yeah. Gold. And you know that gold was only allowed to be used by the highest rank in Sasanian army. no one was allowed to use any gold, any piece of gold, only the highest ranks. So this is the symbol. And then after that was, of course, silver. You see, this is double-edged. Double-edged sword. And this is one dented area. If you can put your finger in it, your index finger, and if you hold the Sasanian sword, it's amazing to hold these things in your hands. Amazing feeling. You know, your finger stands like this. You know, so you can control your sword much better. This is a feature which you can see on Spanish rapiers, later rapiers also. You can point a finger in the European environment. Okay, now we come to, this is the part of my book actually. The development of double-edged sword through highly curved sword. You see, many Iranian scholars, historians, who don't know about weapons, I'm not criticizing anyone, I'm just trying please to mention this as a weapon enthusiast, if you want to call it, or sword enthusiast. Right? When the Arabs attacked Iran with their curved swords, you know, Arabs who invaded Iran did not use any curved swords. All early Arab from Umayyad dynasty had double-edged swords, the same as the Iranian did. So early Arab swords were all the same from the blade profile as the Persian swords. They were double-edged and straight. You want to see the blades which were used by the Prophet Muhammad or Ali or Osman or Omar? Go to Topkapi Sarai Museum. You will see all of them. Double-edged, straight sword. But the handles and the handguards were all refurbished by the Ottomans later. So only the blades are original. Please, I warn that, because many people get so enthusiastic about these blades. Only the blades. Double-edged, straight. So who introduced curved swords, and why did curved swords, and why were they introduced into the military domain? If you go to the chronicles of Al-Jahiz, who was an Abna, the Arabs say Al-Jahiz was an Arab. The Iranian scholars say Al-Jahiz was not an Arab, he was an Iranian. Otherwise, why did they call him Abna? Anyhow, he was Arab or Persian. We'll leave it at that in Al-Jahiz. In his book, which he wrote in his manuscript about the weapons, he says the Khorasanian, majority of them Persians, some of them Arabs for sure, who resided in Khorasan and said that they were proud of being a part of Khorasan, and they called themselves, now I'm Persian, majority again Persian, there is no denial about that, were proud, in the Abbasid period, were proud of their swords with crooked, with a bit curved scabbards. There we have the first hint. And the Arabs were proud of their double-edged straight swords. The Arabs said, what was the Arabic term for that? Okay, whatever the Arabic term was, I don't remember, I'm sorry for that. But they say, these Khorasanian used a sword which is not circumcised. So this is not a symbol of manlyhood. I'm sorry for this example, but this is written there. So they made fun of them. And but the Khorasanian said, but the Khorasanian said, no, this is a really a good sword. Back and forth, and so this is the first example. Fact is, the Turkish tribes from Asia Minor used curved swords. What is the reason? If you ride a horse, you can try it. I mean, we can try it. Okay, there is no sword here. But if you have a curved sword or if you have a double-edged sword, first of all, a double-edged sword or a straight sword, if you do a test cutting like they do in Japan, the samurai art, it does not slice, it chops. I'm not saying it's not effective. I repeat, I'm not saying it is not effective. It is. But it chops. A curved sword slides, it's like a sliding motion. It hits and it keeps cutting. It keeps cutting and goes again. This is not an issue. You say, okay, I want to chop my opponent, or I want to just slice him. The issue is, excuse me. Yes. This is, okay, let's go back to, okay. This is not the issue. I mean, both are effective because there are lots of military historians who argue about that. Sure, this doesn't make a difference. If you chop me or if you slice me, I mean, at the end of the day, I die.
The weight?
I'm sorry?
How about the weight?
They are very...
It looks like the curved one is lighter than the straight ones.
Hard to say. You know, as a matter of fact, all swords are light. If you keep a real sword in your hand, you don't feel anything. You know, a full piece of armor, you can run with it, no problem. You know how much it weighs? 28 kilos, 25 to 28. Distributed very well on your body. You can get in your hands, you can jump with it, no problem. So all these movies which are made people move like that in armor, like European armor, this is not correct. They are so light, you have less weight as a modern infantryman in today's battlefield when you run with all your things. No problem. You don't need to be Rostam, you don't need to be such a strong man who just yells and the whole building comes down. It is, seriously, you need only to be, no problem. Wait, the curved, back to your question, sir, the curved ones, you have 750 grams to 1 kilo, 250 grams differentiation between Iranian curved swords. Nothing. You don't feel anything in your hands. Nothing. This is the whole issue. As a matter of fact, and the distribution of it is so good. Believe me, if you keep a real sword in your hand, I'm exaggerating, but not only the weight, but the distribution is as if you have this pen in your hand. But this is a sword. This is not heavy at all. But coming back to the curved sword, if you ride with your horse, the whole issue is recovery time. When I hit, okay, what about if I sidestep? What does he do? He needs to recover. What does it mean, if recover? Recovery if he goes to his guard position. If he doesn't go to his guard position, it hurts because I hit him back. So recovery is very important. So what does he do? If you have a curved sword, it automatically goes back to its recovery position. You don't need to recover it yourself. And especially if you are a horse rider, this is a major advantage for you. You can hit and it comes back, hit and it comes back. The Turkish tribes who introduced that, and specifically later on when the Mongols took it up, and the devastating effects of the Mongol conquest, not only in Iran but in everywhere they went, even the fall of Abbasid Caliphate, and later on also in Europe, you saw that the Mongols, not only with the bows but also with the curved swords, everyone had curved swords. That's the effect of that. So basically the double-edged straight swords basically were abandoned and the curved swords were introduced.
Even in Europe?
In Europe in later ages. Look at the military swords of Europe. They're all curved.